Hi, I'm Mrs. Karenberg. I teach technology at Luther Lee and County Road School. I'm going to be reading to you today chapters 24 and 25. Chapter 24, Game On. In science class the next morning, Miss Oliverio reminds us about the details for the upcoming science fair. I love science fairs. At my old school, I did a project about propulsion using 2-liter soda bottles, some pipe, and a Nerfish foam rockets. The harder you stomped on the plastic bottle, the more thrust you generated, and the farther the foam-tipped rocket flew. Nellie DuPont Frise would have been proud. This year, I want to do something even cooler. You only have 10 more days, Miss Oliverio reminds us, and don't forget I'm looking for something absolutely amazing from each and every one of you. I glance at the science fair rules, which I tucked into my binder way back in January. It's the usual stuff about forming a hypothesis during research using math and following proper experimental procedures. I can do that. That night, after I take Mr. Pugsley for a walk and finish all my homework, I try to narrow down my science project ideas. I hit on a favorite right away. Nellie DuPont Frise has a famous quote. I forgot who said it first, that she repeats all the time. Shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. I take her advice. I do something about the moon. I go to YouTube, seeking an even more inspiration. Good thing she has her own channel. I've seen and memorized most of the videos about the stars and being an astronaut, so I check out one called The Man in the Moon. It's been fascinating. Here in America, we look at the moon, the dark parts of a face, but in Europe, people interrupt those darker luna marea or seas and the lighter highlands to be a man carrying a load on his back, like that poor nanny at Chumley every morning. The man is accompanied by a small dog. Other cultures see the moon rabbit, a sort of sideways floppy-eared critter with its hind legs crossed. One man in the moon that people see is actually a woman with a ponytail, smiling and looking off into space. It makes me think about how things can look different, depending on where or even how you're looking at them. When Hannah and I were looking at the Chumley kids before I actually knew any, I thought they'd all be the same, snobby. Now I know that some are really nice. It's like I'm seeing the bunny rabbit in the moon instead of the man. I'm looking at the same image, but differently. I wonder if there's some way I can turn the many faces of the moon into a science project. It's a little after 8 o'clock on a brisk, crisp night in February. So it's already dark and the stars have started coming out to play. We don't live near a big city, so there's very little pollution. I can clearly see the man in the moon, surrounded by all those craters, created eons ago by a bombardment of meteorites. I realize that what makes the moon so spectacular, beautiful from down here on Earth might look ugly, jagged, and scattered up close. That's when a pretty cool science fair idea hits me, just like all those meteoroids that hit the moon. Chapter 25, Shooting Marbles at the Moon. I knew from years of planetarium visits that craters on the moon were caused by asteroids and meteoroids crashing into the lunar surface, especially when the moon was very, very young. For my science project, I'm going to make a model of the moon's surface and perform an experiment to infer how the moon's impact craters were formed. Are you going to use a big foam ball? Asked Tim. It's fourth period. We both have independent study time. We're hanging out in the media center. Nope, I say. I'm going to fill the bottom of an aquarium with like 2 inches of flour for the moon's inner crust. Your fish may not like that. Tim, I don't have fish. Oh, good. Actually, I can use an aluminum pan. That'd be cheaper. I can make more moons. I start sketching my experiment on a sheet of paper. Then I'll sprinkle in some cocoa powder, just a thin layer. That'll be the outer crust of the moon. And then you bake it? No, Tim. Then I start dropping marbles at varying heights to show how speed affects the size of the craters. I'll always use different sized marbles. That'll demonstrate how the mass of the object slamming into the moon could also affect the size and shape of the impact crater. And the cocoa powder? If it works the way I think it will, it'll spray out, just like what happened on the moon. You should video it, says Tim. In super slow-mo. That's a great idea. And on my trifold panels, I could display photos of a real moon craters next to photos of the craters I make in my lab to show how similar they are. You have a lab? It's like your magician's lair. Oh, you mean your garage? Yep, Dad says he'll park in the driveway for the next 2 weeks. That's so very considerate of him, says Tim. So I ask, what are you working on? Any new tricks up your sleeve? He opens up his spiral notebook. There's a sketch of a long box with a woman's head and feet sticking out of either end. I'm going to saw a lady in half, he says. Oh, did you change your mind about the science fair? No, I'm still skipping that. This will be for the spring talent show. Awesome. Do you need a lab assistant, Tim asks, for your science experiment? Thanks, but I should be able to handle it. How about the videoing? My phone has a pretty incredible slow-mo video camera, and the camera in my phone is broken. Thanks. That would actually be awesome. But you have to help me do my magic act when the spring talent show rolls around. Deal? Deal, I say with a smile. Great. I look forward to sawing you in half. Who do I want to be? Okay, I finally figured this out. I want to be Nellie DuPont Frise. Maybe not the astronaut part. I sometimes get carsick, so I don't think I'll do well in zero gravity. But I want to be someone smart who makes science fun, which makes kids like me want to learn more about it. Nellie also someone who pushed beyond the limits others tried to place on her. I'd like to do more limit pushing. With science, anything is possible, even stuff that once upon a time everybody said was impossible. Walk on the moon? Impossible until it wasn't. Be a female astronaut? Not gonna happen until it did. So that's who I want to be, Nellie DuPont Frise.